Welcome to Am I the Bleep?
Whoa, welcome back to Am I the Bleep? I'm Fat Boy and he's Short Stack, and we're here to deliver you the best coaching this side of the US-Canadian border. What do you have to say for yourself, Short Stack?
I'm not trusting you anymore. Like, we have like literally 17 years of trust we've developed with each other, and it's just like out the window.
Oh, and you know
Short,
what sucks?
was it short stop or short stack?
It would Short Stack because like the pancakes. That's pretty good though, isn't it?
Oh,
That was Fat Boy. I'm glad how I like how I made both of ours sound bad. I think that was the real a needle to thread.
Fat Boy and Short Stack is literally like a 90s R&B rap group. They're not quite gangster enough to be in the rap hip hop category, but they're still adjacent. It's like, the White Boys to Men that we came out with.
The white boys to even whiter men.
Yeah, exactly. And we are the whitest.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah.
And this is Am I the Bleep? It's a coaching podcast, if you can believe it, where we take posts from Am I the Asshole and we coach them despite having no radio experience and no life experience. No, that second part isn't true. We have plenty of life experience between the two.
So much.
It's unreal. And we're just gonna jump in. We're not gonna have a preamble. You've already heard the radio intro, and you've suffered enough. Let's just get to the meat and potatoes.
Who's meat and who's potatoes?
Oh yeah. Can I be potatoes? I feel like I'm more of a potatoes.
That's her. I'll Short Stack and Meat Boy. Let's go. All right.
Meat Boy, I don't like that.
I don't think anybody likes it. I don't think anyone likes anything we've done so far.
I'm a vegetarian now.
Yeah, fair. And speaking of vegetarians, am I the asshole for hiding vegetables in my boyfriend's food? Throwaway because he spends a lot of time on Reddit. This is the most ridiculous argument I've had with a grown man. I, 28-year-old female, have been with my boyfriend, 36-year-old, for a year, and we moved in together about 4 months ago. One of the first things I noticed about my boyfriend was that he really never eats vegetables. He would sometimes eat them if we were at a restaurant and they came as part of the meal, but he never ate them when I cooked them for him. Originally, I thought that maybe my cooking was the problem, so I asked him if he enjoyed my food, and he told me he loves my cooking. On nights I didn't cook for him, he ate exclusively frozen food and never ate vegetables in those either. Naturally, he has some health issues, vitamin deficiencies. He had phrased it to me as if somehow he's just genetically unlucky. I believed it for a while because I don't know how that stuff works, but eventually it became clear to me because he voluntarily eats vegetables like once a month. 6 months ago, I started hiding vegetables in my cooking. If I was making pasta, I'd put vegetables in I'd usually put for myself, then take the half out and blend it so he wouldn't notice the vegetable chunks, and then I just tell him I scooped out the veg for his portion. This happens more often now we live together because I do all the cooking. He'd been telling me a lot lately. He's been feeling a lot better the past few months and has even had his doctor reduce the dosage of some of his medications. He hasn't had to take his multivitamin in weeks. I kept my mouth shut, and I'm just glad he's feeling better, and it really does me no harm to hide the veg in his food. Yesterday I was making one of our regular pasta meal. It's one that's very easy to hide, at least 4 veggies in it. I was about to blend my boyfriend's portion when the blender died mid-blend. I had to serve it in all its veg chunk glory. That was really hard to say. In all of its veg chunk glory.
That's actually my radio name, Veg Chunk.
Take that, Fat Boy. All right. My boyfriend refused to eat the vegetables, but then when he tasted the sauce, he said it's weird how it tastes the exact same, even though it has some veg in it. So I confessed. He screamed at me and called me a controlling bitch. Said it's none of my business if he thinks vegetables don't do anything. I pointed out he said he felt better. He said his health was none of my business and that I'm controlling, judgy asshole, and stormed out of our apartment to stay with his sister. His sister texted me he's fine, but she agrees with him. My friends agree it's ridiculous that he didn't eat vegetables, but agree I'm being an asshole. John Rom, am I the asshole? Are you thinking about the
Okay.
chunks? Like, where are you at?
I'm always thinking about chunks. That's my secret.
Yeah.
No, the trouble is that you did a bad thing for good reasons, right? Like that's the example we have here is that you did a bad thing because you lied to your partner, and that's not good, and you tricked them, and that's also not good. Relationships are built on trust. On the other hand, vegetables are important. You do need vitamins from them, and even if you are taking a multivitamin, you need fiber. The I don't even want to think about.
You finally get to use the doctor in front of your name on an episode.
Finally, the well, so here's the thing. I don't like vegetables either. I get this. I understand this completely. I grew up, being forced to eat vegetables rarely. And then when I did, I hated them. And whenever they were put on my plate, I hated them. And only as I grew, maybe into my undergrad, and I could start picking and choosing what vegetables I ate, I stopped feeling like you do when you don't eat any vegetables, which is pretty garbo. Um, but that's besides the point. It's just that I relate to this aversion to vegetables. However, I did to myself what this girlfriend did to her partner, which is to hide the vegetables and things. You can just as easily get those vitamins. They don't have to be in whole uncooked vegetables. You can do whatever you want
The
as long as you
chunks.
get them. Exactly.
They
Well,
don't have
no
to be the
chunks. No,
chunks.
that's the nice thing. You can blend it into a sauce or whatever. um I think it just boils down to, does being right about a thing make you not the asshole? Because you're right in that he needs vegetables, but you're wrong about how you did it. And does it make you an asshole? The reason I don't want to say no, it doesn't make you an asshole is because if we started like analogizing this to other things that people could do that is
Yeah.
like justified, and they said, oh no, but like this is for their health, and I'm just, people justify everything to themselves. No one thinks they're the villain. So the promise is that this could extend very far, and it's someone's right not to eat something. And if you force them to do it, or you trick them into doing it, you've kind of gotten rid of their autonomy. And so I would say it's unethical, and because it's unethical, you are mostly the asshole. I will say that I leave a little chunk at the end there for not having done something so bad. You were trying to look after his health, but it's not a good way to do it. But could be totally wrong. What do you think, Jonathan?
No, I think you're right. And I think the non-asshole thing here to do. And if we were coaching this person ahead of this, if this was a will I be the asshole kind of post, we would say it's really, really nice that you care about your partner's health. You're living together. You see that, they have to take a lot of vitamins, they have to do a lot of extra things. And you can talk about how it could be in a lot of the frozen food and in a lot of the pasta that they're already eating, there are some vegetables, and you can start building in, like into the tomato sauce, let's cook together and let's see how this happens, or let's see how we can involve ourselves in the food slowly and take step after step, and just have that conversation. To your point, taking away someone's autonomy, and really, like, this is something parents do with their 5-year-old children. So it's not evil to do it, but if they have such an aversion to it and it's something they really don't do, it's like active. It's not like they don't eat vegetables. It's they don't want them. They don't want to ingest them. They rarely eat them, but they do eat them sometimes, which is a good sign. So just having that conversation and having that communication could have been more positive. But I do agree that it's an asshole move to do this. Now, with that said, it's food. It's like, not, this specific kind of thing is not the biggest deal in the world. And as a result of this, your boyfriend, the person who just moved, was like, you controlling bitch. And we don't know what the tone was, and we want to learn more about like how that was said, what the language was like, because in relationships, we all make choices like this. We could look at this as a little manipulative, And things like this happen in relationships. We all care for each other, but sometimes we don't know how to communicate it. And as a result of a mistake, a partner going straight there is to me a bit of a red flag as well. So obviously here we're talking about the original poster, but it's also, for me, it's really important to also look at, like, as a result of this thing where you could assume positive intent and say, hey, let's not do this again. You're like, you're a controlling bitch and I'm leaving you to go stay with my sister. It could be they're just taking a break, or it could have just been, they're a sarcastic person. They said it in fun. But I definitely would want to learn a bit more about that to see where else that kind of short fuse is showing up in their relationship, if that's
Right.
how that's to be read.
Right. Like, we can talk all we want about the type of communication that you should have, but it also is within the context of what kind of relationship do you have?
For sure.
Because if that is the kind of reaction that you get from this scenario, we're not going to assume that there are other things going on, but it just would make more sense to me that there's something else going on here, more than just the vegetable thing. Either the vegetables kidnapped this guy when he was a kid, and he had to be rescued by Liam Neeson, or he is really bad at communicating, or there is some trauma there that's actually real and not made up, that has a real effect on this guy's ability to handle deception. And everyone has the right to be angry, but if you storm off and leave the situation and then never come back, well then you haven't really accomplished much. So once this guy cools off, maybe figuring out what it is about this situation that got him so upset, apologize for what you can apologize for, and then maybe work on the other stuff, because that's the part of this story I don't relate to, which is, had someone actually tried to work vegetables into my diet and made it tasty, I probably would have been more grateful than anything. But that's just me.
Yeah, like, I think there's a way to get, like, if let's say we subbed out vegetables for something else. Like, for me, I'm afraid of bees, and like my girlfriend,
And your girlfriend grinds up bees into
uh,
a sauce.
she wanted to take me to this sunflower field, and she's wanted to go to the sunflower field forever. And I went with her because it was COVID and it was like an outdoor activity, and I went, and it was just way too much for me.
Mm-hmm.
But if she, like, and she tries, although I'm really difficult to work, it's a phobia for me. It's like a heavy thing. I hate bees. I know they do good stuff for the environment, but
They
literally
do bad things for you.
I can't. Like, it's my biggest fear. Sometimes I go to sleep and hear buzzing, and it's like it's always there. Um, but if there's like a warm up and an openness to me, like, not being okay with something, I'm more open to trying it because there's more space for me to fail and try again. But if she just, like, was like, "Hey, Jonathan, I'm taking you to a surprise," and in my head I'm thinking, "Great, we're going to get cheesecake," and then she takes me to what are those big beehives called?
Apiaries.
Apiaries. I would lose my shit, and I wouldn't call her a controlling bitch because I hope, like, I'm not that, but I would be upset. I would, like, I would see it as a deception too, right? And we have to give people room to be the people they are, have autonomy, not like the things they don't like. Not everybody is open to everything, but having that communication to warm things up will get you from blending something up to being able to enjoy the chunks as well.
Mm-hmm.
That
Has a
that
bee
was
ever
sound
stung
advice.
you?
So many times. I've been stung so many times. Hornets, wasps, bees. And the sting is never, it's part of it. I hate, obviously, nobody likes being stung,
All right.
but also just like all the buzzing sounds that happen before,
All right.
and like, are you going to get stung? Are you not going to get stung? I've been chased. Like, I accidentally stepped on a hive when I was a kid. And like, I've been chased by hornets. Like, it's fucking scary. But even now, like, when I was a youth worker, I worked with this kid who used to literally, like, grab bees out of the air and eat them. And he was one of the first kids I had ever worked with. And like, I was 17 and I was not ready for this world. working with kids with a diagnosis of autism. It's like it's a very unique world. So like I literally brought drumsticks to work every day, and I would like slap them away before he could jump and reach them.
Oh my gosh.
And I felt very powerful doing that. I was like, I'm overcoming my trauma, but then I got stung again. I heard the buzzing, and I'm like, owie, and then here we are. So I'm better. Like I'll go outside, but I specifically love this time of year because it's like getting nice outside here in Toronto, but it's not like bee time yet.
Right.
So it's like yesterday I was outside on my balcony for hours with just like this great sense of peace. But yeah, if you're afraid of vegetables, warm up to it. Don't just be like, here's a chunk of zucchini there, John. You know?
Yeah, there's there's a lot to be said about exposure therapy, but exposure therapy has to be consensual.
It must be, otherwise you're not gonna win. Like,
You're
let's
not gonna
say,
win. It's a no-win scenario. It's the
but
Kobayashi Maru of veggies.
yeah, but literally, and I think that's the problem. And this is actually a really, really important thing to discuss here. The idea of like the how many therapists does it take to screw in a light bulb, and it's like only one, but it has to really want to. That old joke that is really, really old. You have to want to do the work. If you're not ready to do the work, you can invest all you want and it's not going to do really jack shit. You might like learn something that you're going to put into practice later, and it's cool that you're investing your time into it. But you have to walk into that room or walk onto that Zoom call or walk onto that journal or have that that open conversation in your relationship that's open, honest, that you're there, you're ready to do the work no matter how ugly or dirty it gets, because that's how you make change. But yeah, non-consensual exposure therapy, it's not going to work. There's no evidence. This is not an evidence-based practice.
Step 1, cover Johnny in honey.
Oh my god. I don't even have a jar of honey at home, John.
Oh, is that wow? That's a real intense fear, my dude.
My brother Brian, there was one time we were outside in the backyard at my mom's. That's a whole other conversation. But there was a bee, and like the bee was on me, and I just like went like this, like to get it off my head. And then somehow a bee also went onto my brother Brian. And to this day, Brian thinks I threw a bee at him. And I'm like, there's literally nothing in this world I'm more scared of than things that buzz around and fly. And he's like, no, you did that to me. And I'm like, come on. And he's serious.
I mean, it sounds pretty serious.
Serious.
I have nothing to follow that up with, but how about I read our next post, and hopefully there will be no bees or vegetables involved.
Especially no vegetables. Fuck vegetables.
Am I the asshole for telling my sister to fuck off with her scientifically accurate term? I'm sure I'm going to have some things to say about this.
The chunks.
I'm 5 months pregnant and told my family a few weeks ago. Mazel tov. My sister wasn't happy for me and told me she was concerned about my geriatric pregnancy. Okay. I told her I'm under 40 and it isn't a geriatric pregnancy, and that I didn't need her concern because my OBG and I had it covered. She still wasn't happy for me, but it is what it is. At Easter dinner, she again referred to my pregnancy as geriatric while talking to the family, and I again corrected her. She said, sorry, but if you are over 35, it's geriatric. Other people weighed in, mostly disagreeing with her. She pulled up an article on her phone saying 35 and over is a geriatric pregnancy. My aunt laughed and said, this is idiotic. She said, at this rate, everyone will be either too young or too old to have children, since 20s is too young and 30s is too old. My sister said that my sister said that she's using the scientifically accurate term, and it isn't her fault if it upsets me. I said, well, you can fuck off with your scientifically accurate term, because we all know you are just trying to make me feel bad. Someone changed the topic, but she didn't talk to me the rest of that Sunday. The next couple days, she sent me several links to articles about geriatric pregnancies. So I blocked her. Sorry for laughing. My mom called me this morning and asked if I blocked my sister. I said I did temporarily because she was spamming me. My mom said, grow up and make nice with your sister. What you did using profanity on a holy day was just as bad. You're going to be a mother, act like one. Was I the asshole and do I owe my sister an apology? Holy moly, macaroni. Okay, yeah. Jonathan, what do you think?
So there's this concept in our coaching lexicon called you can be right or you can be happy. So you choose the relationship you want to have with somebody and don't like pretend that's the relationship you want. Think about the relationship you really want. Do you want to be close with your sister or not? And it seems like the sister is trying to share some concern. But she keeps just like poking the bear and poking the bear. And she's 5 months pregnant. Like she's having this baby. She's going through with this. The doctor OBG, one big gummy worm. Is that what that stands for?
That's absolutely correct. Yes.
Okay, cool. What does it actually mean?
Obstetrician gynecologist.
Okay, if the doctor who's doing the thing says, "You're good, my friend," think about all the tests, the science, the years of science that go into that, allowing them to make a choice. And also, if they're in their 30s, I imagine that there are like extra tests that happen, and like they make sure that all the risk factors are taken care of, and everything seems to be going well. And this sister's just like, nah, I said geriatric pregnancy. It's a geriatric pregnancy. I read an article. This article is right. What is that doing by saying I need to be right? You're literally, in this case, pushing that sister further and further away. You're pushing her away from the fact that, like, she's not even going to care if you're concerned anymore. She's blocking you. She's like, no. And I know we're talking about the original poster, the sister who is pregnant here, but that was really, really important. And I think this original poster saying, like, hey, like, you need to stop right now, like, with your scientifically accurate term, because we all know you're just trying to make me feel bad. Sorry, let's use the real language. Well, you can fuck off. Um, I think sometimes maybe though that's not the right word to use at a family dinner. Like obviously, like when you do something in public, it puts people's backs up against the wall. But giving a firm directive and saying stop, that doesn't make me feel good in whatever language you need to do. You're allowed to do that. It's really important because this sister was just like pushing and pushing and pushing. I don't think the original poster here is an asshole at all. I think she was just trying to fight off the bee that is her sister, who's really just like buzzing and buzzing and buzzing. But yeah, like if you want a close relationship with your sister and you're concerned for her, if she says lay off, you got to lay off. You can't keep going, especially when the thing that you're poking the concern at is happening. If like for that sister who sees it as everyone's being resistant to her and like pointing out the concern, the way to deal with resistance is not to fight, because the second you start a power struggle, you have to win the power struggle, and you're not going to win the power struggle here because the thing is happening. You have to join the resistance, join the support, and like if anything changes later on, which I'm hoping it doesn't, and like again, there are doctors involved who are much smarter than I am who are saying nothing, like everything's good. You get an "I told you so" later, but like again, what does that help with, right? Like choose the relationship you want, act in accordance with it. You can be right or you can be happy, and it's always better to be happy. Mic drop. And the reason I was laughing at this is because it's like for those of you listening, like I was laughing on mute and I caused John to laugh because my big fucking mouth was open. It's just like,
No, I laughed at the story. The
okay,
story
cool.
made me laugh
It was.
too. That was funny.
I'm glad you didn't find me funny. It's just like,
Just digging the hole.
yeah, like, hey, I have this idea and it affects you because I read an article and this is you. It's like, hey, like, please stop. No, but I'm going to keep going for another paragraph at least. No, but please stop. No, but I'm going to keep going at Easter dinner in front of all of our family. Well, please stop. You're an asshole for telling me to stop. Like, come on. Come on, John, your turn.
Oh, it's my turn?
Come
Okay.
on.
Come on.
How could I have not been more clear?
Yeah. So, when it comes to 35 and over is a geriatric pregnancy. That is true. and the rest is incorrect, because people don't understand the difference between absolute and relative risk. Your relative risk increases of things like Down syndrome and other genetic illnesses that occur due to chromosomal problems in development, or developmental issues that happen in the first trimester. The risk of those do increase in a geriatric pregnancy, and they keep increasing as time goes on. But in an absolute sense, your risk out of like 100, it goes from going to being 1% to like 1.5%. So the reason why the sister is not only not happy but also not right is because they've taken this idea out of context and used it to beat up their sister. And so they don't even have the solace of being right. That's just the first thing I wanted to say. But that's the medical aspect. The coaching aspect, I think, is very clear. I find it interesting how often we hear at the end of these posts that the mom or parent says, make up with your adult sibling.
All the time.
Being a grown-up isn't about taking abuse from other people and turning the other cheek, despite the thematic themes of whatever holiday it is. It's about maturely handling things as best as you can, but also protecting yourself, right? You are your own parent when you're an adult. You are not going to be protected by other people. You have to protect yourself. And if first and foremost, you know what else is bad for a pregnancy? Stress. And if you're
100%.
stressed out by your sister, then you have every right to remove what's stressing you out. If not to protect yourself, then for the baby, which is incredibly motherly, I would argue. But also, from just like a familial point of view, this is like not sibling stuff. From what I can tell, this is just kind of bullying. If I take everything at face value, if I understand, if I assume positive intent on behalf of the poster, this was really unwarranted. And the response that she gave, though she did cuss on Easter, it was warranted. She was legitimately angry, and she had legit reason to be angry. Can you make amends? I think totally. I think you have to understand why your sister is being this way. And if it is from genuine concern, you can point out the things that I just said, but also that bullying someone into taking care of themselves is not a thing. You can't be mean to someone so hard that they are gonna take care of themselves better.
You can't force someone to eat vegetables.
You can't force someone to eat vegetables. I guess the theme does continue. Yeah, you can't force someone to eat their vegetables, even if you're right, even though you're not. Even if you were right, you can't force it. So I don't understand what the sister was trying to accomplish. But I think that, though communication is the solution there, I think in the interim, taking time to protect yourself is totally fine. Now, and I'll relate this to another idea. We talk about setting boundaries in coaching and how, it's kind of this illusion where setting boundaries is going to solve all your problems. No. Setting boundaries is something that you do temporarily while you figure your stuff out. And then you bring down that boundary so you can figure out what the hell is going on. I think
it's an important distinction.
Right. Like, it's a temporary measure. It's putting up shields until you have a moment to collect yourself and figure out what it is you want to say and how you want to communicate it. So I think that that's the only coaching point I would give this OP. I don't think she's an asshole. I think she reacted reasonably, considering she's 5 months pregnant. I've seen 5 month pregnant women do a lot worse than swear. So good job, I guess, for not, doing those terrible, terrible things that you might have done otherwise. But also, you should consider how you're going to deal with this once the walls come down. But also keep in mind that you have a pregnancy to take care of.
Yeah, and ultimately, the only thing we can control in our world is our emotional state. And if our sister is pissing us off, adios, sister, for a little bit. It's totally cool. You're allowed to do that. Um, I think to your point before, one of the things that happens as you grow up is it's almost like feelings are less and less allowed to be had. It's like, oh, like I'm 30, I should be able to withstand all the abuse from my sister. No, you're allowed to say, nah, I'm pregnant. I'm moving forward with this. This is where I'm at. And you need to stop with the madness. Um, and that's totally okay. I agree. Totally not the asshole. The sister, the right or the happy thing was more like, I guess, like thinking about the sister. I think I was just peeved at the sister and peeved at the vegetables and then had an opinion. But yeah, 100.
Also, who says geriatric pregnancy anymore? That's like it's obvious. It's obviously not a cool thing to say. I mean, I learned it in passing when I was in medical school. It's advanced maternal age now. It's not a term we use because it makes people think that like, oh cool, I'm crusty dusty and I'm gonna have this baby. It's not a nice thing to say.
And you know that what we're saying is sincere because it's coming straight from the heart and soul of Fat Boy and Short Stack.
Fat boy and short stack dropping current medical terms left and right.
Heyo. And speaking of dropping things, it's
I
time for
already
me
said,
to.
speaking of, you have to come up with a
Oh
different segue. Yeah,
no!
you have to come up with a different one legally. Our editor John Cena told me. I can wait.
Yeah, just let me
Don't
mull
edit
this
any of
over.
this out.
Oh, I'm not going to.
Yeah, no,
John
leave this
Cena.
all in.
John Cena, don't edit any of this out.
John Cena. John Cena. Leave this in until Jonathan comes up with a better segue.
You can't see the silence.
But you
Oh,
can see
there
this.
you,
How about that?
thank you. That was
So
perfect.
I gave it to you.
Okay,
You're
thank you.
welcome. This is a team. This is a team. It's not us
Teamwork makes the
against
dream work.
Yeah, it's not me against you. It's us against the problem. You know?
It's us against the assholes.
It's us against the assholes. Finally,
It's a lonely,
someone's
lonely
taking
battle.
them down. Yeah, we are not gonna win this one.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Yeah. All right. Am I the asshole for ordering nachos even though it, quote unquote, deeply offended and set off my brother in law's autism and sensory issues? All right. Here we go. Using a throwaway since I post on some relevant subreddits from time to time. My brother in law is 32, wife and I are 25, and while I don't doubt that some of his issues are real autism, ADHD, set point obesity it is my distinct impression that he exploits people's perceptions of these things to be a controlling prick. In the family, saying such things is completely forbidden, however. We offered to take my mother in law and father in law out for Easter dinner so no one has to cook. The timing offered was strategic since we knew brother in law had planned on watching TikTok live streams of some 19-year-old influencer who's blowing up right now. But I guess either he got the time wrong or she canceled early, so my heart sank when he was coming along because I knew there was going to be drama. We went to a place famous for bar food and I ordered nachos. My wife begged me to order something else, but she wasn't direct with me about the problem and I didn't get her hints. As soon as I took my first bite of nachos, my brother in law started shrieking like a child and throwing a little tantrum that the crunch was killing him, quote unquote. He's going to lose it because black olives don't belong on nachos because they are from Spain and not Mexico. My wife, mother in law, and father in law told me I really screwed up and that I was making him uncomfortable. In a moment of pure honesty, I told him that the list of quote unquote not allouds around Brian, the brother in law, is so long and fucking ridiculous that I can't keep up. My wife said she tried to tell me. I said, no, you didn't tell me. You pussyfooted around it like we do every time this creep ruins a family function. Brother in law, father in law, and mother in law got up and left, leaving us with the bill. And needless to say, things between me and my wife have been tense ever since, and we really haven't spoken. I'm absolutely the asshole for my choice of words after he freaked out, and I get that, but I also think things needed to be said. But my question is, am I the asshole for ordering the nachos? My wife says I should have known since she's told me that I had to have noticed that they never have chips around because his misphonia, patent pending, can't handle the crunch. Am I the asshole here? Okay, lots of words, lots of stuff going on. I like the idea that olives don't belong on nachos because they are from Spain. That's an interesting one. But John, what do you think about everything other than the actual nacho recipe itself? Look who needs a moment now. That boy in short stack.
Oh,
Let's
that's pretty good.
yeah.
Yeah. Um, hmm.
It's a thinker.
This is a hard one. This is a hard one because it's not cut and dry, right? Like, okay,
Compared to all the other
yeah,
posts, which are very, very simple.
100 cut and dry. I haven't thought about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
No. Here's the math I'm doing in my head. We have one of two options. The reaction was completely genuine, and so this is something that this person can't control, and you have reacted to their inability to control themselves with you know basically trying to take them down a peg to make a point to the rest of the family, or this is someone who is using, or it's not genuine or only partially genuine, and this person is manipulative because they know they can get what they want by making a scene over their discomfort. I think that I think effectively maybe it doesn't matter. Maybe it's that you have a problem with this person that is the real source of the kind of problem here. And having a problem with someone who has special needs or different needs or is differently abled or has developmental issues, whatever, is does not make you an asshole. It means that you don't understand the person, because I would say that if someone is truly manipulating the people around them using their developmental issues, that is cause for alarm, but it's also a cause to like really pity them. That is a form of social connection that is so tenuous and fake and has no roots, that that person is actually quite alone. And if they're not, and you've completely misread the situation, then they clearly have to suffer through, such tantrums, and that limits their ability to interact with the real world, which is also shitty for them. And so there's a lot to empathize with either way, whether they are being manipulative or not, whether they are being genuine or not. But the problem that you have with this person um, extends to how the family treats this person. And so I think that there's a conversation to be had with each person, how they perceive the issue. I don't think it's as cut and dry as maybe like everyone disagrees with you and you're the only one. Like, they obviously, I think the other groups, the members of the family, probably have their own feelings about having to tiptoe around a family member. I know mine certainly did. My sister grew up with a lot of developmental issues that every member of the family had an issue with. But and I can tell you from experience, not communicating about it is the bigger issue. It's not that my sister would throw tantrums at restaurants, is that we would all sit in silence and not talk about it for ever, and then slowly build up resentment for each other for either not doing something about it or towards my sister. And so I can tell you that this is not a way to be. Avoiding it is not the solution. You're gonna have to deal with it head on. Ordering nachos doesn't make you an asshole, but using the nachos as the point to make your point makes you kind of an asshole. independent of how you decided to say it. That wasn't the time to do it. I think you just let it boil over, and you're still trying to justify it a little to yourself. That is to say, the whole problem itself is not necessarily your fault, but I think a little bit of like talk therapy would go a long way here. I don't think this is a coaching scenario. I think like everyone in the family needs to have a kind of digging out all their junk that they feel inside to maybe understand where everyone's coming from. And also, I think that people underestimate the behavioral support that can be given to an autistic individual. It's someone who is on the spectrum has a myriad of things that they can have provided to them to make their lives easier. And obviously Jonathan can speak to that better than I can, but I think it's important to note that maybe not enough is being done for this person, as opposed to they're, sucking the life out of everyone around them. Maybe they're actually quite in need, and that's not being addressed. And you're just interacting with that problem in your own way by suffering through it. Anyway, that was a long-winded way of saying kind of an asshole, but there's obviously a lot more here.
And considering it started off with all that silence, I'm surprised. Jokes.
Well,
now I'm being an asshole.
Well, no, yeah, whenever we get something where it's really complicated and there's a lot of moving parts, part of me wants to say like the final summative kind of an asshole and give like a throwaway response and not have to like really work through all the stuff. But I think that's the problem here is that, and I can tell you from my own experience, the problem is that people just don't want to work through the stuff because it's time consuming and it's soul consuming to have to like work through. How do you make room for someone in your life who has different needs, regardless of how much of a shitstorm they are? Like that doesn't preclude the need to deal with it. It always needs to be dealt with, either whether they're a delight or they're not.
Yeah, I think in this case he's like a victim of his brother-in-law and he set himself up as such. He's like, they have all of these different things going on, and then I had to order the nachos, and of course that turned into an issue, and there's this huge list of not allows, and I'm not allowed to be myself around this person. Is nachos your entire identity? Like we need to dig through that piece, I think. And I hope somebody quotes me on that one day. That should be a shirt. But the other piece is, and this is really, really important when dealing with somebody who has special needs, is that you and your family, and this is your wife's family, this is your family now, you have to have a conversation and have a set routine in the way in the way of which you work and are around your brother-in-law, and everybody is consistent. It is not your job to figure out how to solve this misphonia or the sensitivity to sound of your brother-in-law. This is a complex thing, especially at 32, that this requires behavioral support, some exposure therapy, some IBI, intensive behavioral intervention, to sort of go through this. And there are lots of different tools that individuals who have a diagnosis of autism or their families can help them to access to help lighten the load. But having that diagnosis of autism, there's so many complex things that go on for those individuals with the way they interact with their world, with sounds, with food, with textures, with people, and even with themselves, that get the soft shell tacos instead. It's gonna be okay. Probably just delicious.
No, I disagree with you.
No, wait.
I disagree with you. No, don't get the soft shell tacos. Deal with the problem.
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying you have to deal with the problem. Absolutely. Just not at the bar right then and there. I think in this moment of heightenedness, Brian, the brother-in-law, is already starting to go through a meltdown. Like, let the family take that space, take that time, deal with like the more intense behaviors, because we don't know what that meltdown looks like either. That can be throwing of knives. It could be like a lot of different things that happen. And maybe like that's just from my own experience. But take the time, take that space, reconvene later when everything is a little more calm, and have a conversation. 100%, a conversation needs to be had, and this could be with the support of a therapist, with a behavioral therapist, so on and so forth. Sort of like get this family on the same page, because this brother-in-law is just, or sorry, this original poster is just like a victim in his head, and that's very, very problematic. And this is just for going out to a restaurant with nachos, and I'm sure there are other bigger fish to fry and bigger problems that are going on here. This family needs to be a lot more on the same page. And he's also going to his wife saying, well, like, you pussyfooted around the nachos. Like, it's kind of a weird situation to be, because Brian, the brother-in-law, he's there, he's listening. He's like, so like she's saying, hey, don't order the thing. And he's like, what do you mean, the nachos? And then later he's like, but you didn't say not to order nachos. That's also a weird thing. So like there needs to be a conversation. There needs to be
That's
like
true.
an openness about this. But obviously, like for me, in the heat of the moment, it's always better. Like everything is off the table. Safety first. Try again. We don't know the extent to which this meltdown is happening and like
Yeah.
what's happening there. But 100% later on, have a call, say, wow, I really fucked up. This has probably been happening for a while. I love you and the family more than anything in my life. How do we figure this out? How can I be better?
Yeah, there's a lot of thoughts. I would add to that. Like for one, that this person's probably going to feel like they can't come back from this, but like
You can.
you totally can. It's you understand that you're an asshole, so you can apologize for saying it the way you said it. I think we are all in agreement. Maybe you could have said it a lot better than that. I do want to. We don't always do this, but there is a post that I want to read, a reply post that I want to read that
Do it.
says, I'll just dip in to say that all of the stuff I've read here leads me to the conclusion that this is something the family needs to talk about. Maybe I'm salty, but I say that have that discussion and let the chips fall where they may, because it's crunch time, which was excellent. And the other thing,
Excellent.
the other thing that I read in the post is that being autistic is no excuse for asshole behavior. Autistic people are not exempt from being assholes. They are just as capable as being assholes as neurotypical people. Totally true. The behaviors can be objectively bad. It's we're not saying that this brother-in-law wasn't acting in a way, it wasn't doing assholery. We're saying that the underlying reasons matter like a lot, because how they change is going to be based on the underlying reasons, not just on the behaviors themselves. Understanding how the brother-in-law justifies this stuff in his head is going to affect how the adaptation occurs when they actually get the help they need.
Yep.
Just like your intentions are right now very much like, I don't like this guy, but maybe they should be like, this is a familial problem. This is my family now. I need to figure out how to make peace with a family member, not just a guy I know. It's all about kind of reframing, so that the problem itself changes quite a bit if you can reframe it and look at it as like, this is your family now, just kind of like Jonathan was saying.
Yeah, so like I'll give you a story for myself. So like when I was in school, Toronto Metropolitan University, formerly Ryerson here in Toronto, I was in school for child and youth counseling, and part of that program was an internship. Now I recognized that already by the time we were all in internship, that I already had a few years of experience working with individuals with exceptionalities. Mostly, I worked with individuals with a primary diagnosis of autism, mostly nonverbal, very, very behavioral situations. So I have, a bit of a unique perception of this world. And one of my co-students, we were in our internship class, and the teacher was like silent and kind of brought up this big conversation, like group meeting. We all need to talk. That one of my co-students who was working in a psych ward with youth had an inpatient at the psych ward who quote unquote attacked my colleague who was working as a youth worker. And when you work in psych wards or like in any behavioral program, behaviors happen. And a behavior can be anything. A behavior can be twirling a ribbon, but a behavior can be throwing shards of glass all the time and things like that. You never know. And basically one of the inpatients pulled this youth worker's hair, and then it was a whole thing. She called the internship supervisor, who's the teacher that I'm talking about in the classroom, and the teacher coached the student to go and press charges on the inpatient. And I stood up because I'm like, this is fucking stupid. I'm like, hey, look, we're all youth workers here. Part of the job, if you work in anything, and I'm not saying it's fair, but I'm saying it's the situation because we don't have better resources in the world yet, is that behaviors happen that are out of our control, and we're taught the skills to deal with them in nonviolent ways. Were you provided with that training? And she's like, yeah. And I'm like, did you use that training to get out of that situation? She's like, yeah. I'm like, if somebody is in a psych ward, it's not a criminal behavior. They probably had a meltdown. They probably were struggling that day. There was an alarm that went off that set them off. And that's what happened. Like, this field may not be the best choice, or that kind of environment, working in a psych ward might not be the best choice. And this is all to say, this is obviously a much more severe version, but like, sometimes behaviors happen that are out of people's control in that moment for a variety of reasons. And there are a lot of tools, and they're not all perfect, that can be put into place to help manage these things, like exposure therapy on sounds, like with the nachos, or like starting out to go for dinners earlier before there's the dinner rush with people who struggle with larger social gatherings, and sort of like build those skills up over time, or teach the I need a break over time. And it's a lot more difficult with adults to teach that if those behaviors haven't been taught yet. But it's up to them and the family to do that. Like, we're not like, it's sometimes out of control. And the to your point, the underlying things really do matter. And I know that was like a whole rant, but this kind of
No,
stuff,
it's good. You're making a good point.
it grates at my soul. Like, when this teacher said, like, yeah, of course you go and press charges. It's like, oh my god, like, that's not at all okay. And here it's not okay to be like the victim of somebody else's behaviors. Like, it's out of control. Are there ways to deal with it? 100%. And those need to be put into place, and the family needs to be all on board. But is it okay to be like, well, they have all these problems and I can't order nachos?
Well, to what you're saying is like, and I feel like people, shy away from interacting with people who have different needs like this, and developmental issues, because we live in a society that escalates. And things escalate very, very fast, and no one's really familiar, unless they're trained specifically to do so, how to de-escalate. But we all know how to escalate. That's the problem. Our knee-jerk reaction is to escalate. We see a behavior that is outside of our normal cultural paradigm, how we're used to that stuff being, and then people freak out a little, they get panicky, and they say, okay, well, then if this person is escalating with me, I'm going to escalate with them. In your situation, in the situation you just described, this girl is going to legally escalate because someone escalated with her. But the context is so clearly like, no, de-escalate in the way that you were trained to, but also de-escalate with yourself. Like, process what you went through, but don't escalate it into a legal issue. De-escalated into understanding, like, what did you learn from this scenario? This is part of your education. As tough as that is, not all education is nice, in to put it bluntly. Like, some education is having a patient throw bedpan at your head, and that seems unfair, but you have to learn, like, when people in those scenarios are going through things, they're going to act in ways that you're not used to, that are not societally acceptable, and you have to protect yourself and be safe, but you also have to learn how to like process that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
And
and to your point, I think what's important here is that like let's look at a different way to escalate, right? So like in the case with the student in the psych ward, escalate it with the hospital that you don't have enough training to deal with these problems and that you'd like more
sure.
training. In this situation with the nachos, it's like it's clear that there is a huge disconnect between this individual's needs and what supports they need to be, like having like a good time with their family at, the nacho place.
Yeah,
Use
I
this
mean,
as a jumping point to bring in those supports.
we can't emphasize enough the 32-year-old, this, despite how OP, and we assume positive intent. We know that this, I very much assume that the original poster doesn't understand this.
For
I
sure.
don't think that there's any malice here. I just don't understand this 32-year-old, if this is their life, has gotten the short end of the stick. That sucks. It sucks that this is their life, that either they're manipulating all the people around them to always get what they want, which is no way to live because no one can form a real relationship with you, or they're stuck uh, 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 having tantrums and can't sit in a restaurant and have a good time like everyone else, which is really unfair. But
For sure.
that's why we have resources. That's why this is like something that requires intervention. It's not just like, you were thrown into a situation where someone who needs something isn't getting what they need, and yes, you suffered, but like this is an opportunity to see like things are going awry. There's a problem, and maybe the rest of the family has become complacent, but you have the room to, just like you said, Jonathan, escalate in a positive way, not in having your own tantrum in the restaurant.
It's
Open
not your
nachos.
problem.
It's
It's
a nacho.
our
Oh
problem.
God. Okay. Well, there it is. And you know what else is your
Yeah,
problem? I
nice, nice.
guess is you're
So
gonna have to tell everyone how to access us and
yeah.
follow us and reach us.
Yeah, so if you're interested in learning more about the work we do as coaches, check us out at thejournalthattalksback.com. Book an intake call with me. If our resource is right for you, we're $200 a month for unlimited coaching. That's a little less goofy, but we're still fun. And we match you up with one of our very own coaches. We have a team of 9. They're all fantastic, and you're going to love it. You journal with them. They respond to you every single day. If it's not right for you, I'm going to help you access a resource that makes more sense. We also have a whole mental health directory on our website. We also have a merch shop where you can get a brand new Am I the Bleep sweatshirt, which is sexy as all hell. If you want to follow us on social media, like actually so many people are doing, you have to check us out. John's pointing out his Am I the Bleep sweatshirt, which is looking so good. So
So
thumbs up.
sexy.
So sexy. You can check us out on TikTok at Am I the Bleep. I go live there 3 times a week, posting a lot of content on there. Some of the conversations are really, really interesting. We just hit 100,000 likes actually yesterday on TikTok, which is wild. So thank you all for the support. On Instagram, you can check us out at Journal That Talks Back. Facebook, The Journal That Talks Back. We're posting a lot there as well. And John Rom, where else can they find us?
We're on Amen.
Amen.
Amen. I have
Yeah.
nothing to add to that. We're just on Amen.
That's so good. Show full stop.
No, actually, no, that's not a lie. That's a lie. I do want to read this. Noted for its addictive Mad Lib like feel and ability to create structured data, Amen has received attention. That is the first sentence of the Wikipedia article for Amen. So that's why
Amazing.
we're on there. That's receiving attention, and so are we.
And if you want to send us structured data in the form of your very own Am I the Asshole post, you can post it on Reddit and we'll probably find it, or you can send it to Jonathan's with a Z at thejournalthattalksback.com, and we'll even read it live on the show and do the same thing we do with the anonymous posts, but with your anonymous post. And with that, John Rom, do you have something you want to share to the masses?
Yeah, it's our very last thing that we do on this podcast is where we share an inspirational quote for us to grow with. And this
Very
week, our
nice.
quote is: when you arise in the morning, Think of what a precious privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love, to be an asshole.